For the past couple years, I've been producing animations, and although some of them are pretty good, I still feel that there is room for improvement. My personal APP will focus on this, but before I elaborate further on my problems with my animations, let's first review on how I make them. I create animations within an app called Roblox Studio. Within Roblox Studio, there are many tools that you could use to create many different things, but I specifically use a user-generated plugin named Moon Animator. Anyways, animating is one thing, but setting up for it is also a really lengthy process. Let's refer to this footage of when I had to animate a scene for an English project. For starters, I had to get this basic rig and customize it into a character that I want to animate. I had to use a combination of different clothes and accessories within the Roblox marketplace to put onto the soldier. Next, if I wanted him to hold a prop, or in this case, a gun, I had to first rig the gun separately for animation. Another FYI for my teacher, when I say I rig the gun, I mean that I have to set it up for animation, since there are many things I need to do first before I can attach the weapon directly to the soldier. In this footage, I also had to set up the effects for when the gun would fire, and I also ended up animating the bolt on the gun to move back and forth. Once I finished rigging the gun, I attached it to the soldier, and I could finally now get started on animating the soldier himself. For the scene I had to create, I wanted the soldier to be kneeling while firing. So if you look at the timeline, I had to position him within that stance on time stamp 00. Each of these dots are called keyframes, which are essentially the points in time that you set each position. Whenever you create one, the object that is being animated will move from the position of the first keyframe to the position of the second one. Next, I move the timeline over and position him slightly moved back as if you fired the gun. Once again, I move the timeline over and duplicate his beginning position so that he'll move back to how he was. I also use a separate feature of Moon Animator to automatically add a wiggle to simulate recoil. On each keyframe, I change the easing style, which is pretty much how an animated object would move across keyframes. If it's linear, the object will move from one keyframe to another at a constant rate. But for example, if it's quad, in, out, it will slowly accelerate, then decelerate to create a smooth gliding motion rather than a mechanical and stiff movement. The next thing I do in animations is animate the effects. Effects don't take too long, since I only had to set when the effects will be toggled on or off. Moving on, I also had to animate facial expressions. I have one big collection of cartoony facial expressions as seen above, and all I have to do is put when the face will change on the timeline. Since this soldier is supposed to be facing combat, I gave him a serious-ish face, then once he fires, he toughens up due to the recoil. The last thing in my animations is the camera work. Normally, what I do is I set the field of view down to 35, and position the camera to capture the main character within these red grid lines. For this example animation in particular, I also made it slightly revolve around the soldier. And there we go, a decent looking animation done within 30 minutes. Now before I post it, I also add some extra elements using the basic editing tool called CapCut. Sometimes it's text, filters, or sounds that I add, which increase the overall quality of my animations. Now back to the main purpose of this video. My main problem with my animations is that they mostly look kind of clunky, and I also struggle animating certain movements. For example, basic walk animations are the main thing I struggle with the most. Within my other video, titled POV, The Immortal Snail Found You, I include a brief scene where I'm walking, and the foot movements don't really seem to match the motion, and I end up foot sliding towards these stairs. Now I do make up for this later in the video in another walking scene, but it only has been that one instance. Within the Are We Living the Dream video project, I also feature another walking scene, but I keep running into the same problem where I don't really know how to simulate the recoil of walking. Additionally, I also do have a problem where in some of my animated characters, they end up coming to a complete stop between movements and it just seems robotic. But within my recent animations, I learned that I just have to keep my characters moving, even if it's just a slight amount. For example, this soldier with the radio seems like he's holding this scared position for too long. But with an extra keyframe, it seems more realistic and natural. In conclusion, I still have many flaws within my animations, but that gives me more room to improve and learn more about animation, similarly to how I'm doing right now.